Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I hope everyone has enjoyed their day. I have. I'm more in my creative mode right now. I try not to center my content completely on social and political things. I do like to make sure that we fuse the Lord in our everyday conversations as well. And so Matthew 18:21 through 25, you got Peter talking to Yahusha or Jesus. And he said, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Right? And really, what Jesus was, I want to make sure I get that whole thing. Yeah. What Jesus was telling Peter is that, there really isn't like 77 times. I believe that was figurative, or really there should not be any limits to your forgiveness of your brothers when they sin against you. And forgiveness is a touchy thing for a lot of people, depending on the level of trauma that was caused by another person. And so I was catching Tisa Tell's channel on YouTube, and she was talking about Mariah Carey's sister. And if you haven't heard, it was a sad event where her mother and her sister passed away on the same day. And apparently Mariah Carey wrote a book in which she was outlining that she was estranged from her sisters and brothers, and she had her reasons for why that was. Her sister's children didn't even have anything to do with her sister as well. And so when her sister was dying, apparently one of her sister's friends are coming out and saying that, one of her dying wishes was that, Mariah would just give her a call, right? And I haven't read Mariah Carey's book, so I don't know what degree of offense her siblings caused her. And this is something that, I might be curious about later to do another video about, to do an update. But I will say this, I don't know what they did to her. Tisa kind of goes into little things that she felt like they were doing to sabotage her interviews and different things like that. But obviously we're getting one side of the conversation. I believe, according to Tisa's reporting, Mariah Carey's brother is actually suing her for some things that she wrote about in that book. So with that being said, I don't have a dog in that fight, but she said something interesting at the end of her podcast, and I wanted to provide a little of my own perspective for you.
You be so quick to say that, but again, I get the public wants a happy ending, but have you guys ever had a situation like this? What would you do in the situation where basically someone that did unspeakable harm and put you in unspeakable peril now needs you for something? Would you be there? I don't know. It's a tough decision to make, and I hope to God none of us are ever in the situation that we.
So it is a very tough decision to make, and it's actually one of those decisions that I've had to make in my life. And for people who have followed this content, they know I'm adopted. But I would say the first 7 years of my life are, something that I would never wish on any kid. And, a lot of the trauma that I had in the beginning of my life was caused by the decisions of my biological mother. And so I was very fortunate because obviously the foster care system, it could take you in the way. I just ended up being with a really phenomenal woman. And my mom, she had a lot of empathy, not just for us, but for our biological mom too. And she understood things that were in her foster care case files, because we came from this cycle of women, having kids and losing kids. And so there were things that happened in her life that were really repetitive cycles of what would happen in our lives, and will be brought on to us. And for a while, as a kid, you're dealing with all these traumas, and, it's natural to, have resentment towards the person that is your traumatizer, because especially if they were somebody that were supposed to be a protector. Like, you're talking about big sister, little sister. The big sister is supposed to be protecting the little sister, and as siblings, they should be protecting each other. That's what I teach my kids. Um, and I always tell them that, you guys got to be careful how you treat each other, because you can grow up and then this is how siblings don't like each other. Me and my siblings are very close, but we went through a lot of things together that made us stronger, right? And that's how we're able to, even to this day, over 40s, we're all very close. We don't let people, we do not let people come between us. And we have disagreements like normal siblings, but that's just to say that, we suffered a lot of physical, sexual abuse when we were with my biological mom. And, it was one of those things that fast forward in life. Now I'm 21, and my sister and I, we get reconnected, and I find out she's been living with our biological mom, and she was actually protecting us from her. So we didn't even know that she was really connected with her as much as she was, and our biological mom wanted to reconnect with us, and she was sort of playing the gatekeeper to that, for a while, but eventually it happened. And, my adoptive mom, she never taught us to have ill feelings towards my biological mom, and to be empathetic, but also grateful that she didn't abort us. She said, the one thing that you can say is that you're here. You are here, right? And what you do, what you are here, means everything. And so my mom, she really helped us overcome trauma by kind of operating through a lens of empathy and forgiveness. And fast forward, right? My biological, when I would go back and forth between Detroit and Indiana, visiting family and stuff, I would visit her as well. And it got to a point when she moved to Detroit, she actually lived with, and she was able to have a relationship with my children. And then fast forward, and I never called her mom. I always called her by first name. And we had relationship. It wasn't like mom and daughter, but it was more like, I was open to just a cordial friendship. When she came out here in Detroit, she lived with us for for a little bit, and then she was living with my older sister for the most part. And she had really bad diabetes. She had very bad diabetes management. And I would watch her just kind of, when she came out, I was kind of confused, like, are you okay? But if I come to find out, she just had bad diabetes management. And we watched her go through that ebb and flow, for a couple of years before it started getting really bad. Now, my sister, who was much closer to her, she was just like, whatever, But, when you do have God's spirit in you, no matter what somebody has done to you, you're not going to see somebody having a medical emergency and just sitting up there like, shoot, I don't care. I mean, because that's an indicator of your soul, right? And if we expect for God to forgive us, and we do a lot of crappy things, offensive against God, we are not in a position to not be able to forgive other people at some point. And again, I can't speak to everybody, but if you're operating with, I want to be in full circle with God's spirit, then forgiveness is an element of that. And, I listened to a brother give a sermon some years ago about forgiveness, and he was saying, what do it means when you forgive and forget? It means that, you forgive, and that, you can say, I forgive you for this. You don't have to have anything to do with that person after that, but you have to be able to close those unreconciled feelings, right? And if you cannot do that, right, then then you need to be able to forget it, meaning that you don't bring it up against that person, especially if forgiveness has happened. If you say, I forgive you, right? Then that means that you're not bringing that transgression up like all the time, every time they do something else wrong against you. And so I think where Jesus said up to 77 times, it means that your brother is going to transgress against you many times, right? Some of it's going to be minor, some of it's going to be grave, right? But if forgive your brother, you have to be reasonable that your brother is imperfect. They're going to possibly transgress against you again, depending on the relationship that you have. And so you have to be open to forgiving again. This is a complicated, complex topic in this world because a lot of people, they are unreconciled. And being unreconciled seems to be like a thing for some people because some people like to weaponize their traumas and even capitalize on their traumas. But I will pray for Mariah Carey and her family. Losing two people at one time is devastating. I couldn't imagine, losing my sister. I'm very close to my sister, and we've gotten into it, but still, we're close. We're able to kind of bounce back and get it back good again. And so this is an interesting topic. I would love to hear other people's comments. Have you had to humble yourself to empathy, helping somebody or forgiving somebody that has caused you trauma? With my biological mom, I was there for her. I was taking her to hospitals. I went down before she died. I spent time with her with my kids. I was driving back and forth almost every month, back and forth with my kids so that she could spend time with her grandkids and stuff. And, I knew she was going to die. Like, I knew she was going to die. The writing was on the wall, right? But I felt a sense of peace, because, you know, I could have made that moment a terrible moment for her, but I made sure that I gave her as much as I possibly could, in terms of satisfaction and happiness, towards during her final days. So, and I don't feel bad about that. I don't have arrogance or pride in me to say I can't believe I did that and she caused like the worst trauma in my life. And the reason why is because I was taught to reconcile trauma. And if you are a believer, and especially if you're a disciple of Messiah, right, you understand that having trauma burden you and carrying you, especially in Satan's world, just doesn't lead to any type of sanity or contentment. So let me know what you guys think. I think this is an interesting topic and it's something definitely new from the political stuff. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye.